Thanks for that.
I didn't know you said that. I didn't know you said that you are not an entertainer, but you're entertaining. That is very true.
Say a lot of things.
And I would say I'm an entertainer, but sometimes I can be serious, so we're good yin-yang for each other. And that's why we're here together today.
Are you gonna knock that off?
What am I doing? I have to hang on to your glasses while you...
Stuff.
He needs a man purse. I've been saying that. So we thought we would start by, because we're here, I think we're here because we were creative separately, came together, and we continue to, in our life together, build upon each other's capabilities. We continue to build each other up, which is what we're talking about today, I think. And we thought it might be nice to start by showing an example of how we are being creative together. And so Rain and I have...
We thought we'd break the ice with a song, if that's okay with you guys. All right.
We've started a project called Moon vs. Sun, and we organically started writing songs together for our project. And
we're incredibly creative. It's been 2 years and we've written 2 songs.
It only takes one, though, honey. It just takes one great song.
Right. That's what we tell ourselves. This is called I Love It When You Make Me Beg. 3, 4. Just follow me.
That's what I do, baby. I follow you.
I'm the junkie, you're my drug. Thief that cannot get enough. But don't let me have too much, 'cause I love it when you make me beg.
I need your kisses long and warm. You fix the part of me that's torn. Fix enough and nothing more. I see your face in a crowded room, and I can't get to you. I'm waiting for your arms to open, bleeding for your heart to stop away. It's a twisted kind of lover's game we play. I love it when you make me beg. You say I don't know when to stop. I say I'm drunk on what you got. Slow it down, taste every drop. 'Cause I love it when you make me beg. I'm waiting for your arms to open, bleeding for your eyes stop away. It's a twisted kind of lover's game we play. I love it when you make me beg. I see your face in a crowded room, and I can't get to you. I see your face in a crowded room, but I can't get to you. I'm waiting this game we play. I love it when you make me pay. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you so much for coming.
All right. Where are you going?
Where do you want me to be?
Not here. You can't be right here.
Well, how am I supposed to say it? You didn't put two help for me.
You can come up when it's like we're in.
Okay, fine. I'm just going to let Rain take over now. And I'll speak to you later. It was a pleasure.
No, don't go anywhere. I just
don't
be
go.
right
Okay.
here in my way, in my shit,
Okay.
you know?
I had this vision that we would be standing like together and be in solidarity as a couple, and it would
I
be
need
really...
room. I need room.
Okay.
So can I start this with? So we want. It was good to start with a song, actually. Oh, it's already up there. Okay, because that creative energy, that force that we kind of live by every day, is an amazing, I guess, tool. Amazing
Outlet.
Babe, seriously, can't do that. And so we want you guys as teachers to feel that way, because it's important that children feel this creative energy. We're actually obviously talking about arts in the classroom. So before you guys leave here today, I hope there's pencils and papers on your chairs, because you guys are going to feel that. We really want you guys to write a song. So everyone's going to have written an original song before you walk out these doors. Can't say it'll be as profound as a U2 song or a John Lennon song, but it will be yours. And you're going to need to be brave. You're going to need to be courageous. Why? I don't need to talk in this, right? Perfect. Thank you. Is that better? Yeah. So, yeah, you're going to have to let go of some of your inhibitions. And I think that's an amazing testament to what true creativity is, that feeling vulnerable. But before we go on this creative journey, before we kind of dig into the songwriting, which will be fun, we need to talk about the importance of arts and music in the classroom, obviously. But obviously, everything that entails, it all centers around creativity. So we need to kind of deconstruct, or I thought at least it'd be a good idea to try to deconstruct what creativity is a bit. And there's three kind of important questions, I think. And the first is, why is creativity important? What are the benefits of a creative life, especially for a child, taking that into adulthood? You know, why are teachers like yourselves so vitally important for helping this kind of happen in the classroom? The second question is, where does it come from? We have very distinct stories and ideas of where it comes from. Is it, you know, is creativity something that is predetermined, that's genetic? Or is it something that you can kind of acquire over time? Is it like a skill set, no different than any other skill set? And the third, and obviously very important thing, is how do we nurture that creativity once we've tapped into it, rediscover it, or just have it? So starting with the first question first, obviously, you guys understand history much better than I do. If we go back to the 1800s, say 1820, somewhere around there, it's kind of when the Industrial Revolution started. Machines started to make their way into society, a lot of progress, a lot of heightened evolution, and we kind of rode that wave for 150 years, something close to that. And then we tapped into the 1960s, early 70s, where we kind of transitioned into this information age, right? Technology, advent of computers. All of a sudden, you know, you look at today and we're just hyper-connected all the time. So it feels like definitely that technology age is present. But there are a growing number of people who think that we've kind of transitioned out of the information age into a new age. And that age is the age of ideas. Now, this was a new concept to me until about 5 years ago. Chantal and I, as very responsible parents, left picking an elementary school for our oldest until like August 20th. Yeah, you know, I mean, we live in LA, everybody, I mean, they have, you know, their schools picked out while they're in the womb, basically. I'm sure it's like that in Calgary, you know, any kind of big city. Are you going to go to public? Are you in the right district, charter, private? We got lucky. because there was this great little school in Santa Monica called New Roads that a few people have told us about this. You guys check it out. It's a cool little school. It's progressive. Great. So we went there. I mean, our kid was going to go there no matter what. But we went there and we were happily surprised because we sat in the principal's office and he kind of opened with, at New Roads, we believe we're in the age of ideas. It's like, okay, what does that mean? Well, you know, he kind of went on to say that ideas really, in their mind, have become the most important commodity on the planet, which we found really interesting. And he said, because we believe that, we need to teach our students to think both critically but also creatively. And I think we were kind of sold right there.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and it was just to hear that actually come out of someone's mouth was mind-boggling to us. It's kind of what we'd always envisioned for our children as we talked about school and talked about teachers and education and what kind of learning we want our kids to be involved in. This was like perfect. And then he went on to say, he goes, at New Roads, what we do is we put the same premium on arts and music as we do on mathematics and languages. Done. I wanted to go to this school. Like it was just an amazing concept for me. And really because at the end of the day, it makes sense, right? We have all these, or we live in a time when there's big problems, right? So we need big ideas as solutions. We're talking about climate change, extreme poverty, the threat of war. I need someone to figure out a way to stop our kids from buying all those in-app purchases and getting those $800 iTunes bills. But the amazing thing is, speaking here in Calgary, is we know that you guys are kind of leaders. You guys are on the progressive front of what education should be, what curriculum should be throughout Canada. So that's exciting to us because, you know, when we talk about teachers, and we do this a lot because we're kind of hyper parents, you know, when our kids get a great teacher, it's like the sky's open and we couldn't be happier. When they don't, we feel like victims almost, right, as parents. So we find it really amazing and revere teaching. I'm not trying to suck up to you guys, but we really think it is the most important profession out there. Now, you guys have the power, obviously. You guys have the power to change a generation, change the way they think, change the way they accept creativity into their kind of life force. And by doing that, you guys really have the power to change, I guess, what society will look like 20 years from now, which is incredibly powerful and a huge responsibility, no pressure. And so when we talk about the difference in the way districts, provinces, countries teach, we're really talking about, are we teaching innovation and change, or are we teaching predictability and order? And when I think about innovation and change, if I were to think through a child's mind, that sounds inspiring. That sounds like transforming. When I think about predictability and order, I'm like gone already, I'm asleep. That's boring. That's like memorization. It's not exciting, especially through a child's eyes. So we want to be transformational. As parents, we try to do that, and I'm sure as teachers, that's what you want to do. You want to transform your students. And to do that through curriculum, you really have to accept and embrace this kind of balance between creative and critical thinking. When I think about some kind of really interesting people that are living now and have kind of gone through this and really accept that kind of balance, a few people come to mind right away. First guy is this man, Jack Dorsey. So Jack invented Twitter, little app worth $8 or $9 billion. And Twitter is fascinating, obviously, because it allows me to maybe connect with you guys, you know, once the conference is over. It allows me to talk to my fans if there's new music coming out or if there's a tour coming. Or it can help organize a revolution, as it did in Egypt. You know, you think about the Arab Spring, and you think about all those people coming together in Tahrir Square. You know, it was done through social media. Twitter was a big part of that. So it's really this incredible, you know, little invention. The story behind how Jack Dorsey invented this is almost as fascinating. He was really enthralled and engaged with traffic as a kid, you know. Living in a big city, it was all about, okay, you have these ambulances going that way and fire trucks and then police cars speeding, taxi cabs are crazy, and everyone else in between trying to get from A to B, right? So he really wanted to study this, and he kind of looked at maps. He studied traffic flow. He studied dispatch, how they communicated, you know, and it was really interesting in the sense of he discovered that, okay, for everyone to be as efficient as possible and get where they need to go, they need to talk in these little short bursts on their CB radios, right? like we all hear when we're in a taxi cab, or if you've seen in the movies with police and stuff. So that was real. That's what Twitter is. It's us communicating in short, efficient, little bursts, and that's really the story how he was able to invent Twitter. This is an image of the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain. With architecture like this, I get it, like it's in the eye of the beholder. This gives me chills personally. The man who designed this and built this is Frank Gehry. Gehry he's built hundreds of these buildings that some look similar, some don't, but just incredible works of art all around the world. And what I like about Frank Gehry, why I'm so impressed by him, is because when we're talking about innovation and change or predictability and order, he's kind of the perfect balance between that. If there was a way to teach our kids, if that was a message and that was, to the strictest code, that's how we're going to develop, this new generation under the age of ideas. Frank's a great guy because when you look at that building, there is predictability and order because there's a lot of physics and math and numbers because you do not want that building to fall down, obviously. But then on the creative side, it's like so out there. It's so inspiring because he takes so many risks. He's such a brave architect. And so, again, I think he's this great example of balancing both really well. And he's Canadian. Now, this next picture is of a record this crappy little band released in 2000 called Spiritual Machines. Now, the interesting thing about this record was it was based on a book called The Age of Spiritual Machines. Talks about singularity, when man and machine kind of come together and you can't tell the difference. That's when singularity happens. And it was written by this man, Ray Kurzweil. He is, next level. MIT, Mensa. I think he has over 200 patents. He invented the first synthesizer. He would be very upset that we were playing a Yamaha and not a Kurzweil. Bad. He invented the first speech recognition machine, cochlear implants. He co-founded the first, or the most progressive university on the planet called Singularity in the Silicon Valley. And the thing about Ray that's fascinating is I got a chance to meet him because what we did with this record, while we're kind of conceiving and recording, I thought, you know what? It'd be great to pull out little excerpts of the book and have Ray speak them. He's got this really monotone, crazy voice. And so posed the idea to him. I talked to him on the phone. He was like, wow, that is so creative. I said, yeah, I'm creative. But he said, that's amazing. I want to do this. So we flew him to Toronto, and I got to spend, a few days with him. A couple long dinners, lots of wine, the time in the studio. And so he was really interested why we were trying to do this. What was the inclination behind, getting him to talk these parts, and where was my education? Why is a musician interested in singularity? So we talked about education. He asked me, so where did you go to school? I said, I went to U of T. Wasn't really engaged. I spent 3 years there, kind of jumping around from, a different major. I ended up in criminology just because it kind of kept me in school. And he's like, well, the thing is, bringing it back to the predictability and order, he really thought, and he says that in the book, it's like predictability and order, save that shit for the robots. Really, we need to teach innovation and change. And this was 15 years ago he was saying these words. So it's really compelling to me to be up here today and talking about the same things that I now believe in and kind of, it took me 15 years to get it, but I'm glad I finally ended up there. So I think if Ray was standing here today, and again, this is one of the most world-renowned thinkers and futurists, inventors on the planet, I think he would say that curriculum needs to be designed for the age of ideas. There needs to be that left-right brain balance. It is imperative for the future of the world, which is really interesting. Now, these three guys are very wealthy men. Trust me, that fact is not lost on me. And by no means would I want you guys to think that I'm sitting up here saying, this is what we need to raise, these kids that are be the next generation of billionaires. It's not that at all. We want the highest capacity, critical and creative thinkers, obviously. We want that for our kids. I'm sure you guys want that for your students. But there is another really important part to this, and that's, the premium that we put on arts and music also has a social impact. It affects our social conscious, our social awareness. And I'm going to let my lovely wife who's very socially aware. Talk about that.
Yeah, Rain is an incredible speaker, and I'm so different than him. When we met and fell in love, we were practically kids. I think I was 21 or 22. And a few people came up to me and they said, "Is that really on? Is that happening?" And I said, "Yeah."
Talking about what? Sorry.
Excuse me. And I said, "Yeah." I said, we're together, yes. And they thought it was fascinating because of our personalities being so different. But what I've noticed is that our value system is very similar. Now, one of the differences between Rain and I is that Rain is a very prepared and organized person. And he comes from a very sort of educationally different background than I do. And so it's very fun preparing a speech with my husband, I have to tell you. Our styles are so different. Today we had a really interesting debate that relates very much to, well, not a debate, we just got on the topic of how companies run and the consciousness attached to companies. I won't get into the politics of it because we're in Alberta, but we were watching the news. And, you are talking to someone who believes that nurses and teachers should be driving the Lamborghinis, by the way.
I believe that too.
I think let them roll. High rollers, the teachers. Give them the mansions, trick them out, pimp them out, the whole bit. I do. Even more so than the doctors. I've spent so much time in hospitals, and I have such an incredible respect for teachers, which I try to express very often. And when we were having our chat about the news here in Alberta, we noticed that there were going to be job cuts. I'm not going to say in what industry at all. And I said to my husband, "Gosh, that just sounds awful that these people are losing their jobs." And I posed the question, what will happen with the CEOs? Will they keep their jobs? And of course the answer to that is yes. And then we proceeded to talk about how could we creatively change up the situation so that people could still have a job and that CEOs would still have a good lifestyle. So this is how I like to think. I like to think, as you can see, my first photograph is not of a billionaire of any sort. It's of the Dalai Lama, who I absolutely worship. And what does he say? Oh, he said this kind of recently: the planet doesn't need more successful people. The planet desperately needs more peacemakers, healers, restorers, storytellers, and lovers of all kinds. I can remember as a child that when I had a piano near me, I was drawn to it. And I wanted to mimic John Denver. You fill up my senses. I was high from when I was like 7 on John Denver. Honest to God. And that's because I come from chaos. I do. As a lot of us do. We come from different styles of being parented. And I attribute a lot of my beliefs. I think I'm pretty socialist. And I think that I attribute, and I don't believe that it has to be political. I think that it's a fairness thing. It's a social justice thing. It's a justice thing. We all come with different capacities to the world, and we can have those capabilities built upon. We can need more. Our role in society can be to need more, or our role in society can be to provide more and to have a calling toward those who maybe need us, and we can lift each other and balance each other and create a very healthy society. So, yes, for me, with chaos came a desire to zen. And so there was a piano in my house. Bling! First check. That was awesome for me. And I can remember that I wanted to write songs about the white snow on the river outside and the peace and how that looked. Not understanding then, of course, at a tender age that was for me to compensate for the chaos I was surrounded by. I come from a crazy background. My father had 12 brothers and sisters living in a tiny farmhouse, so you can imagine how my father navigates through a day. I mean, everybody's going to starve, or you got to fight for, a meal or a conversation or a thought to be said. So I come from a very passionate background. And throughout my childhood, I found myself calming myself via music. And I'll talk a little bit later about how that came to pass and what genetics and circumstances led to me having that call to the art of music. But in the meantime, I'd like to express the importance that creativity has by detailing a bit of a story about my life and how that coping led to the course of my life, really. When I was a teenager, I had a crush on a young guy. Sorry, honey. And we traveled in a little, social circle, bunch of us, and all loved and cared about each other and had a lot of fun, and we're exploring through our teenage years. And very unfortunately, my friend had a bout with a mood disorder. And thankfully, with my incredibly diverse background, I had not only some insight into what he was going through, but I also had a lot of compassion for what he was experiencing. And I was less quick to judge. When a lot of the other kids, quite frankly, were not using their critical brains. They were acting perhaps out of tradition or fear, ignorance, and they abandoned him. And I, of course, do not hold them accountable. They were kids. I hold their parents accountable. And their parents and their parents. But unfortunately, my love for my friend was not enough to save him, and nor was the love of his family. And in the end, the trauma of being abandoned and the confusion that had come into his world caused him to take his life. And this was, I would say, one of the single most impacting experiences of my life. And I really, really had a hard time processing that. But I had music. I had music to help me cope. And I wrote this little song called Surrounded about my friend. And I wrote it and I could envision it. I could hear it in my head. I could hear the strings and I could hear the drums, and I really, really had this desire to not only know that I felt good inside of myself for writing it, expressing myself, but I also wanted to manifest it into something tangible, something that I could play for others, and that I could connect with others about, and I could show them who I was by playing this song of mine to them. I could show them my pain. I could wear it on my sleeve, and they would, in turn, feel connected to me in a manner that was also compassionate and caring. And I did. I recorded the song. Subsequently, I did send it into a record company label in a time when it mattered to have a record deal. And it changed my life, actually, because I got this record deal and I started an actual career recording albums and putting out songs and performing in front of audiences that weren't my family and crazy Ukrainian relatives. And I got to meet my husband, and we have 3 beautiful children. And I mean, obviously, that story is a bit more spiritual insofar as how it connects to creativity, but I believe that my friend gave me that gift. I don't want kids to have to learn the hard way about how to find their essence, but they're going to. Because you know what? Shit happens. Is life hard? It is hard. You know, even if you're doing everything right, the guy still hits you from behind in your car. And even if you're doing everything right, you still missed a freaking equation on your taxes, and you have to go back to them, and there's just struggles every day with everything. And Mommy, please untie my triple knot on my shoe. No, not now. It's hard. There are just things every day. And, you know, Rain and I have had the privilege of being able to build on our capabilities and our compassion. And quite literally, not unlike writing the songs surrounded, it took us to the forefront of war-affected communities. And, you know, I have the opportunity as an artist to spend time with families, not just in Iraq, not just in parts of Africa, but here too. And I see the struggle. We do have luck where we're born. I always say that our luck begins where we're born. It's true. But there are challenges all the time once you're given this gift of coming to the world. And quite frankly, I cannot imagine my life without the coping mechanism that music has provided for me. You know, the creative source of music and the arts, it has all these incredible effects on us that we may not even tangibly see in a moment. But, for example, not to get into the whole mechanics of our brains, but we know that the brain pathology, both in a developing human and in a fully grown human, is affected phenomenally by music. Phenomenally. When people have brain traumas, when they've been suffering with addictions, piled on medications perhaps, never been loved, and they go to heal in centers, they require music therapy. And we know that it's meditational, it provides focus, and it softens the alarm inside of our brains. And I think it's very powerful that throughout the course of my life, that medicine has been there for me. Because I think that we're gonna go ahead and find the medicine, no matter what. And if we don't tap into what our natural creative essence is, I think that that's scary. I think that presents a quite possibly dangerous world in the next few decades. I think it's dangerous to pull music away from the curriculum. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think it's dangerous for society. Not unlike passing the buck on something like masonry building. If we decide 10 years from now, oh shoot, we should have kept music in the schools, who's going to know how to teach it again? Who is that person? They're retired, they're over it. They've moved on. We need to make sure that it's protected. We need to fight for it. And so if you can kick and scream and do your best to keep trying, I would be grateful for that, because I know that my world is a safer, evolving world. It's heading in the right direction if the kids are being shown. Rain and I stand on the shoulders of lots of influences. Many musicians influenced both of us. What if just an entire generation or two of those were taken away? Well, that's kind of what happens. I'm scared about reporters right now. Who are the reporters? Twitter. Twitter's great, but it's not the news. What about when we decide in 10 years, oh, actually, we do need proper journalists? That's a scary thought, too. So we can't, we have to be careful. I think we have to be very cautious about that. A great example on a global level of how it's frightening to take away honoring the essence of young people, the life forces of young children, is in Eastern Congo, for example. Many regions, many more affected communities have this issue. But when schools get damaged by shellings and when they are leveled, can you imagine those kids haven't got a school to go to? Oh my gosh, when we're done spring break, I'm like throwing the kids out of the car. Get out of the car. Go to your principals, your teachers, go. I can't imagine these poor mothers with these kids at home with nothing to do. Boredom is the devil's playground. And I can see that at spring break at our house. We have 3 menacing young children. And when they're bored, it gets ugly. It does. But there's a Western ugly to our 11-year-old being bored. The Eastern Congo ugly is, hey kid, here's an AK-47. I'll have a check for your mom at the end of the week for $50. That's what boredom looks like there. So in a lot of ways, we can influence change. We can look at it from the point of view of educating our children, because we are in a position to educate. Our children do go to school, for the most part. And we can hope that our influence, be it small or large, can create the influence of change for the future. Because the science does say that what happens over there, it's coming here. In some way, shape, or form, it becomes our responsibility. Whether you want to look at where your taxes go, on the front end, we're paying for the AK-47. And on the back end, we're paying for programs to help when those people come here as refugees. There are people. So I learned early on by having a sibling with mental health issues that an individual is no happier than their least happy sibling. Some say least happy child, which I can relate to now that I have children, or your least happy parent. These things affect us. And for those of us who are very curious, as I am, about the world and who explore the world on perhaps a slightly less topical level, I believe that we're no happier than our least happy brothers and sisters in the world. I do. And if we know something is happening in the world and we don't do something about it, what's our deal? So I think that the creativity that we can spawn in our young people is going to impact the change that we need to have a collectively healthier society, civilization. And we shouldn't be short-sighted about the importance of just music alone on influencing.
Don't touch those. Don't touch them.
Very bad timing, honey. We're having a very serious thing.
I know, but I just...
I'm not changing anything, love.
Okay,
You have
thank you.
OCD. Is there any picture you can put up or no? Do we?
Yeah, I got lots of pictures.
Ah, I love this picture. Look at him just, wow, he's into it. That's awesome. That's a little trampoline on the bottom there. I'm kidding. I love the example of the symphony being as civilized a collaborative effort as one could imagine. Everyone here has learned to do what they do. They have been encouraged in some way in their life whether it was, you know, a genetic or circumstantial, they built upon their basic capabilities. Somebody encouraged that person. And then there was another guy or gal who wrote scores or composed them. And then all the players came together with their unique parts, which alone don't sound amazing, with too many rests and so on. But together, it sounds beautiful. And I think we can get a little caught up in being, you know, toted the winner or the number one, but I think we need to get away from it, and we need to look at the collective and become a little more attuned to what we do together, and realize that that is perhaps where the beauty lies. Yeah. I'm going to call upon my husband now to finish my next thought.
That's great. When we were walking around, we came from a hotel. Anyway, we got lost. And all these rooms, I guess it's a huge kind of convention. But it was interesting to walk around and see, I guess they're kind of like classrooms for you guys, right? And we always feel like, I don't know, I feel like we're learning more now than we've ever learned. Obviously, probably because we have kids, but it's funny when they throw it back on you. And my kids have often asked, because they see us going away a lot to perform and on tour. And they're asking, you know, so when did you, because they're starting to play instruments. Like I said, we'll talk about New Roads a little bit later, the school to go to, but obviously, they're doing orchestra. There's so much, you know, like the premium is, it really is. It's on arts and music just as much as it is on math and language. So there's a lot of arts coming back, and there's a lot of pictures and paintings on our fridges and walls.
More wall space at the Main Kraviazic residence.
And so they often ask, you know, like, how did you know that this is what you wanted to do? Whether it's one of our sons is just kind of, you know, Lucas started drawing.
Yeah, well, he's on and off always been.
Yeah, he's got, you know, he might have like a talent. It's interesting to watch it, but he also plays the trumpet. So it's just watching them kind of navigate their own creativity, which is really amazing. But they often ask me, so how did you know? And my story is really interesting, and I try to obviously condense it for them, but I try to start with this thought from Picasso. Every child is an artist. The problem is remaining one as you grow up. And I really think this is what kind of defined my trajectory as an artist, because it was this close to never happening. And I start with, you know, telling them that, okay, you guys are all, we have 3 boys. I said, you guys are all equally creative. You know, when you came out of your mother's womb, you guys are these creative beings. And I said, you guys can see that because, you know, it was all about like finger painting and these imagination stories as they're toddlers. And it's just, you know, it's like this fantasy world between those, you know, whatever, 2 and 6, right? Those developmental years. It's incredible because we really are trying to teach them how to, you know, hold a fork and feed themselves and tie their shoes, all those fine motor skills. But the creativity, there is that balance. It's there, right, early on. And then somehow it gets kind of stripped away, you know, in a weird way. And so I tell them, you know, it's like you guys have these 2 sides of your brain. And if there's any science teachers in here, I know this isn't, you know, accurate. But just bear with me. Let's just go with it. Left brain and right brain, you know. And I say, you know, when you guys are, you know, when you're doing problem solving on this level, you know, whether it is science or it's chemistry, it's like you're using your logical brain, your analytical. And I said, when you're doing other things, you're using your imaginative, you're using your right side, the creative side. And I said, the key is to like always keep these things together, as I mentioned earlier. And they love that. But when I think about, or I have to explain where I was through my schooling years, where they try to like ask me, so what did you do in grade 2 and 3? It's like, I think I've shown them a picture of this, but this was evil for me, this place. It was, and I hate to say that because you guys are teachers, but this place sucked. This was a Catholic school that I kind of went to for my elementary years in the west side of Toronto, in Etobicoke.
Terrible.
That's terrible?
Yeah, that's.
Oh, you said, I thought someone in the audience said that.
No, they're saying it to me.
I think Rob Ford went here for a minute. So,
He's
there you go.
creative.
Yeah, he is creative, actually. But so I tell them, you know, I said, you guys have, or you're starting out on a much better kind of playing field. It's much more even than I had. I said, because throughout my years at All Saints, I never thought I was creative, except for this one year. I said, there's two profound things that happened in my life. And I said, the first was, in grade 3, I had this amazing teacher. His name was Mr. Polito. Might have been Father Polito. No, it couldn't have been. He was wearing a leather jacket. And the thing was, when he was on duty, you know, when he wasn't on duty, I was playing handball or foot hockey in the snow. But when he was on recess duty, I used to hang out with him. I would say goodbye to my friends. We'd walk around, and he used to talk about poetry. He mentioned the beat poets, like in grade 3. I should never have known about the beat poets in grade 3. But he mentioned those guys, right? And he had a creative writing class that was amazing. And I remember always talking to him about the stories and the characters, and he'd always come over and look over my shoulder when we were writing our stories in class. And it was just a really incredible experience. And I felt like, wow, there's something like happening, you know, like there's some synapses firing in my brain. Didn't know what a synapse was when I was 8, but there was something going on that I was like really connected to. And then in grade 4, I had a new teacher, Mrs. Belak, and she could care less about creative writing. Creative writing for her was like book reports. And the book reports were really just about, you know, it was all factual. It was predictable, it was orderly. It was like, what happened in the book so I know that you read it. That's it. There was nothing creative, weren't allowed to expand on it, and it was crappy. And from that moment on, when I switched out of Mr. Polito's class into Mrs. Belak's, and then throughout elementary school and even high school, there was no more, I never had like that connection like fizzled away. And honestly, I forgot about it. Now the interesting thing that happened to me was in the summer before high school. I was psyched to go with all my friends. We were going to go to this place called Michael Powers. It was going to be like new girls, maybe play football. It was going to be, you know, as a kid and going into a teenager, I was really excited to do this. Unfortunately, my younger brother, who was 3 years younger than me, he wasn't having a lot of success at All Saints, go figure. But it was a little bit deeper, and my parents were really concerned. So they sat us down at the end of the school year and said, hey, you know, we sat down at the kitchen table, and it was like, we want to send your brother to this. We found this school about an hour and a half away. It's a private boarding school, and we think it'd be really great for him so he could have more attention and be focused and succeed. And I was like, cool. And they're like, we want you to go with him. I was like, not cool. I don't want to leave. You know, I wanted to go with my friends. I wanted to go to my local high school. But being the compassionate, good brother I was, I said yes. What? I was. I said yes. So, I mean, this was, a little devastating. More devastating, about 2 months later, it's somewhere in the middle of August, and my parents set us down at the kitchen table again, and they said, look, we got to get started ready for school, but we just want to let you guys know that once we drop you off, your father and I are no longer going to live together. We're going to get divorced. It's funny.
That was so diplomatic of them, though.
I know.
Yeah.
But no, you know what? It was this time when I was like, okay, everything is just going to shit. This is horrible. I'm getting, kind of shipped away to this school. My parents are getting divorced. It can't get any worse. So I'm up at the school, and my brother, let's call him an entrepreneur. And a very creative entrepreneur. So you're up at boarding school, and they have these things called tuck shop. So whatever, between 7 and 8, after study and school, they open up like this little variety store. It's like your own personal little Max. And there was a little, I don't know why someone put this there, but in the basement of our school, there was a Coke machine kind of stuck in the corner that no one used. And my brother was talented, and he had these long, talented arms that could reach up into the pop machine, grab all the soda, grab Sprites and Coke and whatever, and he'd stuff them into his pillowcase, take them up to his dorm, and he opened up his own tuck shop up there. So the headmaster didn't like this at all, and he kicked him out. So now, literally, I'm stuck at this school that I never wanted to be at. My parents are divorced, and my brother, who I'm really concerned about, is back in our neighborhood at All Saints, not doing well again. And I was, you know, I went into this depression, you know. It was really tough. The nights were brutal at this school. And the only savior I had for me was a stack of CDs that I brought and a Walkman that I'd think I'd been given for my birthday that year, a CD Walkman. And literally I would put on my headphones when the lights went out, and for 3 or 4 hours, I would just put these CDs on repeat, right? And this lasted probably for at least that year and in the first few months of the next year, when I had to go back and kind of relive all that stuff, knowing that my brother's not there. It was a crappy summer. But then something clicked. There was something that happened in listening to all this music again, where the words started to mean something to me. And it's like those same synapses started firing in my brain that happened in Mr. Polito's class in grade 3, where I loved words, like the fascination of switching them around and what they could tell you in a story. And all of a sudden, you know, lyrics were making sense. And this really became like my religion, and it really saved me in a way. So, you know, when I think about my circumstance, it's like, wow, I went through my whole kind of elementary school and almost all through high school thinking that, you know what, I'm not creative, and never had anyone kind of pull that out of me or put a spotlight on it, and I never found it except for this really unfortunate incident or circumstance. And I could, when I think about it, I like get nervous and I start to sweat a bit, because I really could have just as easily been working for my father in the construction business back in Toronto right now. And not that that's a bad thing at all, but it's a totally different life force and career path for me. So I find it incredible how, just by chance really, that I was able to connect with my creativity. So when I tell my kids that story, they're just blown away, because they just think, oh, you're this creative person from the day you were born, and you're always playing guitar and writing songs. And I say that I didn't start doing that till I was 17. I never even knew how to play the guitar. I'm totally self-taught and very, very fortunate. And Chantal's story is so different and so crazy. I'm going to I'll let her tell you that.
Yeah, again, I think it's so interesting that...
Oh, that's a picture of you, by the way.
Oh, that's me. Yeah, that's... I had other ones, but I couldn't find them, and I thought this told a cool story. Rain and I, you know, again, just really same, different, incredibly, extremely different, and yet ultimately have the same value for music and the arts. And so how did that come to pass? This is a great example of how I must be about 7 maybe. And if there was a plan at my school to have a... Are you making...
I just make a call. No, I got to check and see how much time we have.
Yeah, definitely let me know if we're running past.
Yes.
So at my school, you know, I'll get into this a little bit more in detail, but this tells a story of how if there was a play or a concert of any sort, I was just appointed the job of doing things that probably more a teacher would do. You know, our school secretary, Mrs. Honey, is on the organ. And now Mrs. Honey loved it when I would play, as did all the teachers and so on. But she loved it when I played the piano, because then she could be on her organ, which was her first love. Because she played the organ in the church. She played the giant organ at the church that the school attended for the really special assemblies, where, of course, I was also very involved and had a lot of expectations put on me for those instances too. So how did that all happen? How did I turn into Little Miss Perfect? Probably is what some of the name calling was. I can imagine. I always wondered why Alexandra Mercury put glue in my shoes in my locker in grade 4. I'd never done anything to her, but looking at that picture,
They were all jealous, baby.
I know why. I I don't think they were, I don't think they could even, I hate that word. I think that, you know, didn't Drake say jealousy is just love and hate at the same time? And didn't he invent YOLO too? Yeah, no, I don't like that word. I think that it's supernatural, and I'll get to that again as well, about the energy of a child and why that happens. But basically, I was born and played a tune. I was a total weirdo and just loved this like little life force I had. I had so much fun with it. Sesame Street was on, or the Electric Company, hey you guys! And this song would play, and then I would just like run over to the piano in the other room, play it, go back, hear the new songs they had that day, run to the piano, play them. And by the time I was 7 or 8, if my parents took me to the movies, we came home, end of night, everybody's going to sleep, I'm in the piano room playing the score from the film. Someone came over and a song was mentioned that they loved. I was a jukebox, I would just go play it. So, you know, and this, of course, in the end, with me being a songwriter, presents a little bit of difficulty, too, because I'm, like, also a bit of a weird mimic. I have perfect pitch. It's kind of useless now, in a way. Everyone has a different way of, when we're collaborating in the studio, everybody has a different way of sort of getting there with writing music together. And so I'm classically trained and have this, you know, weird, like, you know, if I hear something make a ping sound, I know what note it is. I don't like really hearing a lot of music because I go a little bit insane, because I know every single freaking note of every instrument that's on the piece. And so it's complex, but you know, I was definitely a little weirdo. And like, when I went to, you know, my parents, back to the farm where my dad was from, where he had 12 brothers and sisters, it was a tiny farmhouse, and we had this, you know, super old, upright antique piano there, and my father's family is all extremely religious, so we did hymns in the front room, and before dinner, and I can remember every Sunday, because it was just before the Disney movie went on at 6, right, just after the Beachcombers, and it was before dinner, and so we would sort of be, I was the lagger, you know, we were finished with all the hymns, but I kind of kept going, and people would all just stand around while I played, and I was kind of one of the youngest ones there. So it was odd, you know, the aunts, the uncles, great aunts, uncles, and my Gigi there, everybody's singing, and it was me playing. And then over at my grandmother and grandfather's house on my maternal, on my mom's side, this must really be where some shit went down, because my grandpa was a self-taught violinist, and my grandmother was a self-taught mouth harpist. That's what she called it, the mouth harp. I kid you not. And in the Prohibition, they would bring their instruments to the hall, and everybody would bring their liquors, their secret liquor, and my grandparents would play. And so by the time I arrived on their laps, they were this beautiful music-making couple. And I must have been, you know, from 18 months on, sitting with them, and they made beautiful music together. It was beautiful. I can remember it now, vividly. They had all these old war songs and folk songs and hymns. They played everything. They were sort of a little bit religious, but more secular. So there was a hint of, you know, the religious, more influenced music at my one place, and then there was a little bit more folk and secular at the other. And then there was the home life where my mom was like saying to my father, Johnny, there's something going on with her. We're putting her in lessons at 5. So my mom was a freak, and she wanted me in every lesson. So I was classically trained by the Conservatory of Music. I competed in all of the Manitoba classes. You know, they were 250 kids large, and I was winning them from when I was really, really little. And then I was singing too, and I was the weirdo girl that was always winning those. I won the Rose Bowl in Manitoba, which is the sort of last one you can win. It was too young to win it. So I had all these like reinforcement. You're the one. You're the singer. At church they had me singing. Oh, is Chantal singing today? It was just very annoying, really. It was very annoying. And so I can see where there was a very huge risk for me with being a little bit overwhelmed and there just being a little too much. Just outside of the social pressures of it. Now, within the classroom, I actually want to send my friends a bit of a thank you note because they could have been meaner. They could have glued my mouth together, never mind my shoes in the locker room. And I feel for them. I can remember being at a sleepover at my friend Alex's house, and the friend who put the glue, she was my friend. That's kind of weird. But anyway, so I'm at her house, and I remember our other close friend, two of our other close friends were there, and one of them was a gymnast, and one was a dancer, and one was and one was me, the singer and musician. And the mother said out loud, "So Alex, Chantal's singing, Arifa is dancing, and Carrie is going to go to the Olympics with gymnastics. What are you going to do? Who are you?" Now, I love my friend's mom. She's a great lady. If I saw her tomorrow, I'd be so happy to see her. Perhaps it was generational. I don't know where this, sort of misstep came from to speak to a child like that, but I do feel that it was a little bit more about, the top of the Christmas tree. Be at the top of the Christmas tree shining. I speak to a lot of heads of school and see where the progress is coming. We can't just have the same 4 kids winning every year at the end. Why do you even bother trying? And I know the other side of this. I know the other side of this because I had a visual arts stigma. Me. Change picture.
Bam.
That is a painting I'm working on right now. That's just one of the ones I have going right now. It's not done. Let me tell you.
It's a bird.
It is. Stop.
It's just in case. Sometimes you can't tell.
Beautiful bird. Now, I couldn't draw a stick figure a couple years ago. Not a stick figure, and I really, really mean that. I really could not draw. But I really, really, really wanted to draw, and I can remember Jennifer Lukovich's trees from grade 3 were so good. And my tree never looked like hers. And I can see it even in our son Salvador's classroom right now. There's a little girl in there named, not Bodhi, but Zara. This kid, it's just unbelievable how talented she is at visual arts. I'm kind of jealous of her. Like all those feelings come back. But I had such a real passion for the visual arts, and it's something that I really, really wanted to do.
I think that's a good segue into New Roads, because when we talk about our kids' school, it really is kind of, we're lucky we found it. It was by accident, like I told you before, but it kind of is the blueprint, especially for elementary school, what we'd like to see and what we hope that you guys are kind of in tune with and on the same page with, because there is that balance. Because even with Zara, it's like she is amazing.
She's gifted.
But everybody has, it's like the collaboration in the class on an arts and music level allows everyone to have a voice, and there is no competition.
No, and the way that the collaborative setting is made up there is phenomenal because, I can also see where Milo is a top-shelf reader. I can't believe how well this child articulates and reads, because I get to go in and do a little, reading workshop with the kids. Every mom or parent gets to go in, and, so we get to see where the kids are at different levels, and they get to read together all the time. And so I can see where they're helping each other. Our son Sal was a little bit late with his catching on, but now that he has, and he's receiving so much reinforcement and encouragement at home and at school, and we're learning how to speak the same language as the teachers are, and figuring out how to build upon his capability. And I really believe that it's been that sort of collaborative effort on the part of the school and home.
It is, and the creativity even works its way into the critical side. Even with math, like I think about math when I was growing up, our kids learn, and you might do this as well, but it's a constructivist method where they all try to find different angles. They're encouraged to be creative and try to come at problems. So their problem-solving ability is phenomenal, and to the point where I don't even want to get in the car with the kids as we're going to school because they always want me to ask them math questions, and it's getting to that point now where I'm a little out of my league, and it's embarrassing, but it's amazing to see how excited and how they view mathematics. That alone to me is just, it's such a gift. And the trajectory that they're on is just something that I never experienced.
Can you put up the next picture just for one moment, love? You know, something that Steven Spielberg said about his challenge as a child having dyslexia was that, you know, when he picked up the camera, he felt like he was operating within his own skill set. And the trouble, this is what I found so interesting about the way he speaks about it, the trouble was with the other children not really understanding why he couldn't read and why reading traumatized him so much, and the way that they picked on him and his terrible memories, you know, they lead him to speaking in such a positive way right now. He says that they have the energy, all the kids have the energy, but if it's not channeled correctly, then it's gonna be negative, you know. So he has all these negative experiences. He's of course managed to pick up a camera and do quite well with it, and he did have some hugely positive influences in family and in friends that he connected with who also had dysregulations and disorders.
I just want to we should get a couple last points out because I know we're way over.
Are we way over? Oh dear.
Oh
wow.
Did you sneak that in?
No.
Picture
I
of
didn't
our family. This is, you know, I don't know when I mentioned New Roads, what you guys envision in your head, but it's a very modest little school. But this is it where you do drop off. This is the front. So that's their mission statement.
That's very different than your school you went to.
Much different than All Saints Catholic High or Catholic school. But creative thinkers, committed citizens, compassionate human beings.
Sounds like a nice balance, doesn't it?
Yeah, when Chantal mentioned earlier, like the things you need to fight for as teacher, I mean, that's it. You know, that's, when we talk about the age of ideas, this is what you need to be brave. I mean, we've tried to, some friends that we have, different couples with children, we've tried to say, hey, you know what, we found this amazing thing, you should go check it out.
I've done some tours, I've taken some parents in, and they call me later and just say, thank you so much, it was really amazing, you and Rain are very brave. You know, they think we're taking this big risk, you know, and what I've noticed about the teachers at New Roads is that they make themselves vulnerable. As a child, the teachers that really jump out for me remind me a lot of the teachers at New Roads because they are themselves shining. They're building upon their skill sets, and they're really modeling their passion. They really are. They're bringing that to the kids. I don't remember a lot of the specific facts that maybe teachers taught me, but I do remember their hearts. I remember them being encouraging. I remember them being kind. I don't like the teachers who were mean. When I think about them now, I want to walk up to them and say, did you not think I was going to grow up someday? And realize how freaking mean that was? Are you stupid? So I think, you know, that kind energy, that positive energy, you know, that's a lot of what we see at New Roads. And not quick to judge. They're not quick to judge there. In fact, it even sometimes frustrates me because I have to sit with the principal and she's got to walk me through some things that go on. Because it is a collaborative effort, even the social things that come up. We have to come together as a village. Yeah. And it's a lot of work. Listen, I'd be Madonna if I wasn't committed to this. Kidding. It's a better life. It's a better life, trust me. And so, I mean, you know, I kind of feel like with Rain and I, it's like you're in or you're out, you know? And we're in. We really believe that it is that collaborative effort on all fronts.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a good point to leave on. That you have to advocate for this. You have to advocate for creativity, committed citizens, compassionate human beings, and it all starts through collaboration. And if you get rid of arts and music, I was just asked on Saturday to do a benefit for Santa Monica High School because they have a great music program, but it's being shut down. I mean, that has nothing to do with the age of ideas. If you get rid of that stuff, our thinkers, we're moving backwards. So I know we're at a time, I don't know who's...
Do you want to write a song? Does everybody want to stay and write a song with us?
Write a song, or we can do questions. I don't know how much time we have. We want to hold you guys from going.
Is that okay, Fearless Leader? Yeah? Okay, cool.
Does that mean like 5 minutes? It takes a little bit longer. It's up to you guys. If you need to leave.
If you need to leave, that's okay. But
it's
a fun. How about the people who are going to leave? You know, go. And
get out.
Get out. And then those of you who would like to stay, if there's enough of you, we'll do it.
Less people, the better.
And if not, thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, you messed this up. Great.
I think they're going. That's got some people sticking in. Woohoo! And you can move up if you're staying. You know, come on closer. Was this one mine? Can I have this one?
What?
Can I have this one?
Oh, really? Yeah, it'll take longer than that, so
Should we just?
should we just say thank you?
Well, how about, you know, we'll
Can't
just
do it.
do an express version of it.
What?
Just do one.
You can't. It takes like 15 minutes just to get through the process.
They're sitting here. No, let's just do an
No,
express
you
version.
can't, right? You cannot do it.
You have to. So just done? Okay.
What is it?
Can we have the sound back up? Hey guys, we hate to disappoint you. The next speaker actually does need to get in here to do their sound check. So I know. Can we have 5 minutes? Or no?
Pencils at the door.
Oh, and leave your pencils at the door if you don't mind, if you haven't already walked out.
Okay,
5 minutes? Okay. So go
gonna
ahead,
take-
Rain, talk through it.
it's gonna take a little bit longer, so you, basically, I need the screen up again, please. So what we need you guys to do, that whoever wants to do this, is pick a partner, preferably someone you don't know.
It's okay if it's someone you know, because you're going to make
you want to
yourself
feel vulnerable.
on a
You want to
different
feel
level.
like what your students feel when they're trying to be creative. Really easy. All you need to do is tell your partner 10 childhood memories. I'll give you a list of stuff to help you.
Or 3 or 4.
They're going to write down those memories. You switch it up, you do the same, and then you're going to take 2 or 3 minutes and write a verse and a chorus telling their childhood stories. And it could be dark, it could be happy, it could be sad.
Paint a color.
Whatever they tell you, just work off of those ideas. And we're going to do it to try to pick a song. We'll do it to U2's One. If you guys know that song, One. Is it getting better? Do you feel the same? So if you think of that in your head, just kind of use that rhythm when you're writing the lyrics. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're going to pick a few and sing them back, and they'll be original songs. So
go.
this is just a little bit of a guideline. Got to go
Ladies
quick.
and gentlemen, thank you for coming, and we will wrap up here, and Chantal and Rain will be joining us at Page's bookstore up by the exhibition hall in just a few minutes. Thank you.
We're gonna play a couple songs first. We're gonna have to.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, you do one. I'll join you with the dark skies.
Can't read this one.
Skies are great. Okay, I need a different one. Can I have another one? Does anyone have another one? No, I'm not using this one.
Oh, that's awful.
Sorry. Thanks, babe. Thanks.
What's your name, sir? Joseph. This is Joseph's original song. Is there a title? Freak? Yeah.
I was feeling dark, the skies are gray. Search for light, on my knees I pray. The guilt to read, well, I am not free. Forgiveness, I don't ask or see. I was feeling dark, I was eyes are gray, and I search my light on my knees I pray. Feeling dark and eyes are gray, and I search the light on my knees. On my knees I pray. There you go, Joseph. Nice song.
Okay, I'm not going to use
We gotta rush through this. I'm so sorry, but
I'm not going to use the U2 thing, so it's okay.
I just like these lyrics. I don't know who said the sunshine inspirational, dancing in the rain, prancing in the backyard. It's beautiful words. Okay, so I would just say, sunshine, you're inspirational. I'm gonna be dancing in the rain and prancing in the backyard. Oh, sunshine, you're inspirational. Oh, I'll be dancing in the rain with you, prancing in the backyard. That's my chorus to her song. All right, guys, we're gonna be outside, so we'd love to meet you.
Thank you so
and
much
do a
for.
photo, or- Are we outside?